right?
Okay. All right. All right, man. So, um, well, first and foremost, congrats on COCODONA.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that. That's
So
yeah, that's
from
still
what I
fresh.
saw, yeah, I bet. Well, I see you're out running, so you must have fared all right. Your legs must be doing okay. Um, and just based on what I saw on your Instagram, it looked like a real suffer fest. Like you just barely made it into the finish line or something. And then I took a peek at your ultra sign up, and you had a top 10 finish.
Yeah, I had a it was fun, man. It's what trail running is.
Yeah, totally.
It's just yeah, it's like yeah, you start out and you pick a pace that's comfortable. You can know you can go all day and you just manage it. That's
Yeah.
it was exciting. I didn't plan on doing another 200, but it worked out. It worked out. So
Well, it's the inaugural year for COCODONA, so you got to hit it up. I mean, you've done a few 200s before, though, right?
yeah, I did the inaugural year of Moab too.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was joking with somebody because when we started that, Candace was like, it's 220 or it's 230, but nobody really knew because nobody had ever actually done the full loop at once.
Okay.
So it was the same deal. Yeah, who knows? That's what makes it fun, right?
Yeah, totally. Well,
Yeah.
awesome. Awesome work. You got it done, man.
Oh yeah.
How was it compared to some of the other 200s that you've done? I mean, from what I hear, the first 30 miles were really gnarly and the heat was brutal. How did you fare?
It was hot. It was real hot. I started off. It was pretty funny. I snuck up front right at the start. I was right up, right maybe about third or fourth person back, and I'm kind of looking around, and because those are fast cats, right?
Yeah.
There's everybody's like, there's guys that they're gonna win.
Right.
They're not gonna have any other mission other than that. So
Yeah.
but then everybody took off, and I just stood there, and I hung out in the very back of that first group. Oh, good part of the day until the second group started to catch us, and I hung out with those guys for a while, and I was sitting in the shade and just kind of taking my time.
Okay.
It was way too early to be running fast, so
Yeah.
it was hot. It was up, once we started climbing, and it was rocky as all get up. Man, it was rocky.
Hmm.
But it just yeah, everything worked really well. I ran with Jamil for a little bit at the beginning until the sun really came up, and it just turned into management right out of the gate because it was hot.
Okay.
It
Yep.
was hotter than it's yeah, here at home in Oregon at 350 feet, it's 50 some degrees and drizzling. It's not 80.
Right.
So,
Right. Right.
um, but yeah, it was good. I just, yeah, no, those journeys are pretty crazy. And there's just so many days. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
it's long. So, well,
It's long.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, were the first 30 miles as gnarly as everyone said they were? I mean, did you think like, man, this is a
Absolutely.
tough beginning to the race? Like, how are we
Yeah,
going to do this?
absolutely. I knew there was talk in the very very beginning that it was going to be way harder that first part than anybody had anticipated,
Okay.
and so yeah, it was tough. It was the hardest 50K I've ever done.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know about 100K of it. I kind of heard that a couple times, and the first 50 miles, that was legit. I mean, it was honest, and it was just a brutal up down, hot, no water. I mean, we all ran out of water. If you didn't run out of water, you must have had gallons because I mean, I had a bad, Ben Light saved my life.
Yeah.
We left mile 11 and you're supposed to have your 3 liters of water.
Mhm.
And we left there. We're about a mile and a half from aid station and my back was getting wet real quick.
Mm.
And my bladder had split open.
Oh no.
And so we ripped it apart and we salvaged maybe 20 ounces of it. So I was pretty low going into that whole thing, but it just turned into management. I knew I'm not going to be running. I'm going to be hiking, stay in the shade when I can, take your time. I was out of water so quick. I can, yeah, there was guys that were much faster than me that I even started catching up to. And I'm thinking, boy, this is gonna be a long week for these cats because you get so dehydrated like that. I don't know how you ever recover.
Yeah.
You can't do that in a day.
Yeah.
But yeah, split my bladder. Ben Light had a duct tape and super glue. So we got it all cleaned up and put back together. And at least I had that. I couldn't put anything in it. At least I had the bladder. And there was just about, and that thing was brim full. And that's where I messed up, is I filled it before the start, and I ran with that bladder on my back and 2 bottles up front. I was just over 3 liters at the start all the way through. So when we got that aid station, I really didn't need anything. I filled up my bottles up front, and then rolled out, and then that bladder broke. And I just thought, well, gosh, this is going to be slow. So, but it was so steep and rugged. It didn't matter. I mean, how those guys were running across that stuff, I could do that. They were flying. Yeah, I know better.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, how old are you?
43.
43. Okay. I'm 46. So yeah, I'm in the
Nice.
same boat as you, man. It's just like, just get out there and find a pace that you can manage, hike what you have to hike, run what you can. But for something like that, it's just so long. There's just so much management that's happening.
Yeah. And I told my dad, I said, I'm thinking a good 8 hours for the first 50K. And he's like, oh, you're crazy. I said, nah, 8, 9. I said, I'll shoot for that. I said, I'm okay with that. I said, I think we do that the first day. I get the first day out of the way. I get the heat out of the way, let it get dark, let the sun go down. I had it figured out. I thought I'd be close to a downhill on some gravel road sometime in the dark. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to hike this thing out. And nobody's going to be running the whole time as hard as they did that first day. So as long as I can manage this thing out and drag it out and run later, maybe I'll start catching people. Yeah. So, and it got so hot. So, and the altitude, it was hard on me. It's early season, man. If it was like September or August and I had been in the mountains, all summer, it's different. But going from skiing to training for a race to being in the desert at 5,000, 6,000 feet is just a little reality check.
It's brutal, man. It's just brutal. Like nobody's really heat trained at that point. It's an early race in the season, even if it wasn't that hot. I mean, it's a tough one. You mentioned your dad. Was he there pacing and crewing, or? Yeah.
My dad went down there with me.
Okay.
After Tahoe 2 years ago, he said he'd never go again, never do another race with me. So he said I was too mean. But of course, he jumped at this one. He wanted to go. So he went, and then a couple buddies from Utah with Recovery Strong met me out there. And one of them, the farthest he'd ever ran was like 14 miles. So this was all super new to him.
Whoa.
He had never been to an ultra. So this was just like a blast into like, top level is how I felt. So,
dang.
But they did great. They were awesome. Super
How far
awesome.
did that guy go? That had only been 14 miles.
I think he ended up doing close to 40 miles over the days.
Nice.
Yeah, I think, he did a 13 miler with me that was tough. And do you run with a pacer?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay. So I mean,
not always, but I like to, if I can. Yeah. So we started a business, actually. Our business is called Big Things Crewing.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So yeah, we if people come into Colorado that are from out of state or whatever, they don't have anybody to pace them, we'll go out and pace them. So in a way, it's sort of my specialty. But anyway, sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead. No. That's
brilliant, because guys like me, I don't really want friends to do it, because, when you're doing that stuff, it's almost better to have somebody you don't really know who can say, hey, here's what you got. Yeah. Okay. Well then, it's kind of like going to the ice cream store. If there's only chocolate and vanilla, I'm probably going to walk out happy. But if there's like 100 flavors, I'm going to walk out, I should have done this. I should have gotten that. Right. So to me, crewing is the same. If I don't have anything, I'm good. I told my dad, I said, you bring the tote, you drop the tote, drop the chair, I'm set. Right. Okay. So they did that, but then it turned into, hey, give me some muscle milk, Red Bulls, Gatorade. I started having the selection of stuff I wanted, and those guys were awesome. They were loading me up, and they had it everywhere I needed it.
Wow.
It really changed the experience, because I was able to not have to worry about things that in the past I would have been worried about. Where am I going to get calories? Maybe the aid stations didn't have what I wanted, or maybe I didn't have any tailwind, or you know what I mean? You kind of get I know I kind of think what I need. And there's times you want to splurge, and especially over that many miles. And I was really thankful those guys were there.
Yeah.
They did awesome.
So Muscle Milk and Red Bull.
Oh, there was, yeah.
I would be puking if I had those, if I was drinking those two, I think, but it worked out for you.
Oh man, you don't even want, yeah. Ginger ale and tailwind, 50-50, Coca-Cola, tailwind 50-50, gnarly with tailwind split. So you knock the foam down, right? You get all the calories, but you don't get the fizz.
Okay.
But the only thing solid I ate was a cup of top ramen and a cheeseburger.
The whole race?
The whole race.
Oh
I tried one of
gosh.
those bean wrap things. I had a bean wrap thing and I took it with me, and oh no, there was a peanut butter jelly sandwich, a half a sandwich involved at some point. Okay. That's when I really wanted to just jump off a cliff. I was pretty done. And my buddy, he's like, here, take some food. He had, it was gummies and a peanut butter jelly sandwich, a half one. But other than that, that was it. I was drinking soda and that gnarly and tailwind, and I had sores in my mouth, which I've learned is pretty common when you're drinking that much soda.
Yep.
But it works for me, right? I don't get sick. I used to always get sick. I've been high fat, low carb, or high fat, low carb. I tried that. I did that through Tahoe. My last go at that, I was super strict on that. And I've kind of reverted to the sugars and, some taste.
Sure. Yeah.
But it's, I didn't get sick. And I guess the other piece of that, though, is it being that hot and knowing kind of how much I was exerting, it didn't matter. I didn't think it mattered how many calories I was getting or how I was getting them. I was going to burn them. Right. Yeah. It was just, I was going to sweat it out. That was my theory at least.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Five Guys. I thought it was a Five Guys cheeseburger, ended up being a Culver, which I'd never had before, which was
Culver's.
Like a double. It was solid. It was a good burger.
Oh, that's a good burger. That's Midwest burger right there.
Yeah. So, yeah, I was pretty excited to do that. The fries, I tried to do a couple of fries and it was too much. It was it hurt my mouth. So,
dude.
But
so how bad did it get? I mean, I want to hear like your highest point and your lowest point. Like, I'm sure there's moments out there where you're just flying and everything's clicking and going right. And there's other moments where you just, like you said, you want to jump off the bridge.
Yeah, Maggie took my soul. She said I took hers, but that's not how it worked. I was riding pretty high until Sedona. Sedona was no good. After Sedona, leaving Sedona, when I saw Courtney, she was there, and I had left, and that was that morning. I knew it was going to get hot that day, and I was really worried. Because that day coming off, so I had done in the mornings, I was clipping along. I remember I passed a group, some buddies, kind of early one morning, and we were clipping. I mean, we were doing eights. We were running really, really well. It was cool out. We had our headlamps off. We were kind of hunting people down. It was pretty fun, and so we rolled off a lot of miles that day. And then we climbed. I'm drawing a blank of where it was. The later in the race, I remember the aid stations, but early on, they were blurry. There's a big Prescott. When we came through Prescott, there's a big long section. Then we did a climb up out of there, not to Mingus. Yeah, it was to Mingus. Yes, Mingus. That's where it was, to 100. That's what that was. So when I got to the top of Mingus, I was riding high. I was doing really well. I was like 27 hours at 100. I felt really, really good about it. I felt like I had a ton of energy, and I had left Mingus, and it did a climb, and I thought I was already at the top. So I had left there, and I was alone, and I had put headphones in. That was the first time I had ran with any music or anything the whole trip.
Okay.
And I threw in some music, and I got up to the top, and there's a hang glider takeoff spot on the top of Mingus Mountain, and it looks over the must be Cloverdale or Cottonwood. There's a town down below that we went through where there was a Dead Horse was the aid station, but you could look over this whole valley, and there's like this platform, like this asphalt platform for the hang gliders to take off on.
Okay.
And I'm like, if there's a place you do ashes, that's the spot. Right. So I poured out some of my son's ashes, and I was doing them there, and kind of had a moment. And Howie, photographer, had caught that. I didn't even know he was there. He's kind of hiding in the bushes. But he had nailed that moment pretty well. And that was the high, right? That was like 100 miles in. I was feeling good. And I came down off of there pretty fast, faster than I should have. And I passed Maggie, I passed Drew. I started catching people. They were walking. It was tough. It was rocky as shit. But the time of day that it was, I was in the shade, and I don't think they realized that you could move because you weren't really hot, because you could run against the hillside in the trees and kind of stay in the shade. And I thought, man, you got to take advantage of this shit, because when that sun shifts another hour, you'll be hot and you won't be able to get away from it. And so that was coming all the way down into Jerome. I had that whole idea of, I'm going to run where I could get in the shade, and I would move fast. And when it was hot, I would slow down. So rather than trying to get through it, I slowed down in the heat, kind of took my time, and then would push when I felt like I was in the shade and a little cooler, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And I had done pretty good through there. We got to Jerome, left Jerome, got down. We started coming into the night, and that's when I had moved up quite a few places, and I was feeling really good. And I got frustrated. I tried to sleep, and my sister had called my dad. That was a dead horse. And I tossed and turned for an hour and a half. And that was the beginning of it must have been 30 hours, I'm going to guess, because I just felt like I walked for 30 hours. I couldn't.
Really?
Yeah. I laid there and tossed and turned, had a couple tacos. Oh, that's what it was. They had a taco stand. That was the other place. I tried to eat a couple tacos, and I ate like a half one, and I couldn't, my throat, I couldn't chew anything and get it down. And that's what I remember, because I was waking up and I tried to eat it cold, and it's no good. But in my mind, I wanted it so bad. And but we left there, and Jared, the guy with Recovery Strong, who had never ran very far, he definitely had never paced anybody. We left there, that it was about 10 o'clock at night. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, 10. We were leaving, and that sucker is like taking off. I mean, he's like running out ahead of me, and I'm like thinking to myself, yeah, okay, see you, dude. He kind of look back at me like, man, what's going on? I just had to accept he doesn't know, right? So I just kind of got frustrated. We walked, and we caught up to Joshua, I think was his name, Joshua Locke, maybe. I think that sounds right. And he was right in front of us. I mean, 100 yards. And I was staggering. I got tired. Since I hadn't slept, I got frustrated. I got down on myself, and I just said, next aid station, I got to regroup. And then I did. And then I ended up getting some actual, maybe about 30 minutes of sleep. And then was able to kind of get out of there and regroup. But that turned into the rest of the day just being horrible, leaving Sedona, getting hot. I had passed Maggie on coming down off Mingus, and she's like, you took they yelled something, and maybe it was later she yelled that I took her soul, but she yelled something. I ran by, I had my headphones in, I was just rocking out, going for it. When she caught me in the tent outside of Sedona, I was sitting in there, and it was just like a greenhouse. It was so blazing hot, sweating, and she gave me a hard time for drinking soda. And her and Courtney took off out of there like bosses, though. The race was on. I could tell there was no way I was ever going to catch her. She gave that look. When someone looks at you, they're like, I don't care where I end up, but you are not going to ever pass me again. And that was exactly the case. I never saw her again. She took off out of there, and they were gone. So, but it was so hot. They left there. I got out onto the road. I had my phone out, and I was looking for the number, that they give you to quit. Right. So and I had my phone out, and I started thinking to myself, so what am I doing? I said, I'm walking down a gravel road, and it is hot as shit. And then I started thinking, well, how long is it even going to take somebody to figure out where I'm at? I mean, I don't know where I'm at. I mean, so how long? I mean, it could take hours. And I'm thinking, this is ridiculous. And I look up in front of me, and I see this white van off in the distance. I mean, pretty far down this gravel road, right? And this is, I mean, it's in the night. It's hot. I mean, it's middle of the day. This is before Black. I think it was called Black Tank was the next one we came into. So I don't know what the name of that one was. It was right there in Sedona, like Deer Mountain or something, Doe Mountain or something's right there. And it was supposed to be an aid station that your crew, I thought they could get to. And it was one of those, I get there and there's no one. There's two people working the aid station. There's no crew. And I sat down in disappointment. Courtney and Maggie catch me. They leave. We take off. I see them off in the distance running away like deer. And I look, shortly after that, I look up and I see this white van. Well, my dad has a white van. Okay. And I see it drive by, and all of a sudden it drives by again. And I'm like, okay, I'm hallucinating. It's got to be, I'm hot, I'm overheated, I want to quit. And I think in my mind, I start to think, well, these are I'm going to convince myself to quit. I'm going to convince myself to tell whoever this person is, hey, call, I need help, I need a ride. And I had convinced myself that no matter what happened next, it was me trying to quit. So I kept walking, and all of a sudden it backs up and he stops, and I'm waving my arms and my poles, and he just drives off. And I'm like, either that happened or I'm going crazy. And it was hours and hours later that I heard in a conversation about my dad getting stuck in the middle of the desert with nobody around. And he had to have some local pull him out of the ditch, and he was stuck in the sand, and that's where it was. So I did see him. Okay. So I was glad. I was like, I told those guys, I was like, man, I thought for sure I was losing my shit, but apparently not. So,
and you would have probably thrown in the towel there had you talked to your dad, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't think he would have let me. I think it would have turned into a pretty serious conversation. And in all honesty, it probably would have been a conversation that just went south. And yeah, I probably would have ended up quitting and blaming him, and it would have been stupid, right? That's what we do. But but yeah, I would have. And I even had my phone out at that point. It was really odd in my mind how I tried to convince myself that I knew I was trying to quit, but I wasn't going to let myself. So, But yeah.
Dude,
yeah,
did it go tough. Up from there at all, or was it just downhill from there to the finish?
No, it was the rest of that day through Black Tank. There was a big climb up the power lines. My knee was swollen up. My Achilles felt like somebody was flicking it when I was stepping. I was trashed. I had blisters, and I never get blisters. And when they started to hurt, and it was all this stuff compounding it, right? And I'm like, it got to a point that there was 75 miles left. And I'm like, 75 at this rate, this is going to take 25 hours. I said, I'm walking. And that's when I'm trying to think, I don't know the name of that ridge. We climbed up the power line, just this great big climb up to a plateau, going to Cinder Pit is what it was. And that whole climb up and that night was really tough. I had never really caught up on my sleep. I'd gotten really hot during the day, and my knee was killing me. I had blisters. I find every reason in the world to quit. I remember Adam and I were walking, and he goes, "Oh my gosh, look at that!" And the Sterling satellites is how it's called. There's everybody knew what they were except for me. And I looked up and I thought, this is how it happens. This is not
the UFOs are coming.
Yeah. And then there was a herd of elk in the right next to us running through the timber. And I'm thinking, my mind was just, and this was only hours after, literally it was 100. It felt like I don't know if it was 100. It was probably 90s, right? But it felt like it was 100 degrees down at Black Tank. And we're up on the ridge, and it's dark, and it's maybe 5 or 6 hours later, and just my body was pissed. I wanted to sleep. I had walked around at one point looking for a rock, to lay down. I remember I said, that rock looks good there. I told Adam I'm sleeping, and I slept for about 20 minutes there. That was kind of a common theme. I did that, probably I figured about 5 hours altogether I slept.
Wow.
But it was like 5-10 minutes at a time. I'd try an hour, and I couldn't do it. After about 20, I'd get up and I had to go. But yeah, that night getting into Cinder Pit, we got to Cinder Pit. I slept there. We got in there at 1. We got in there about 1, and I think I left there almost 4 o'clock. And I had slept for a good hour and a half. I slept for an hour and then snoozed, and I got up there and I was ready to roll. It was
Really?
I was like, this is the last day. I said, we are doing this shit. I mean,
Nice.
we're done. We got 50 miles. I think we had 50. Maybe it must have been close to that, because I thought, you know what, we can do this. And I got up, my knee felt better. My Achilles didn't hurt anymore. It was super cold, bundled all up. I'd never worn a down. I ski in the shit that I was running in, right? And
Wow.
we left there with my down and a windbreaker and my mittens, and I was just laughing. I'm like, this is crazy, because 12 hours ago I was so hot, so hot. I was dying. I was seeing shit in the desert, and here I am out in the mountains freezing. This is crazy.
Wow.
So, but it was energizing, right? And it's just the reality of, one of those races is just like life bundled up into a week.
Yeah.
And that's the highs and lows and the swing, where you are, the temperature, and just managing that, right? That's what makes that stuff awesome. I love it.
Yep. So were you able to really pick up the pace for that last 50 miles, or were you just kind of on cruise mode,
yeah,
what was the end like for you coming into at that point you decided, okay, we're going to finish this thing for sure. What was the end like as well?
We ran pretty well from there for the rest of the time. I played leapfrog with a couple guys going into be right before Flagstaff. They had caught me coming up on the road, and I can't remember what happened. Oh, that's because it had gone through the morning, and we had left early in the morning, and I had slept, and none of those guys had slept yet. They're all still trying to push on. Okay. And I think there's 3 of them that ended up sleeping, and then just kind of random spots, and we had caught up to them. And there wasn't any more. I had felt that the only climb left was going to be Eldon, which was the great big climb at the end. The rest was like kind of railroad grade. We had been in Flagstaff, my wife and I, with our son, and I had ran some of those trails before, so I knew they were pretty buffed out. I felt like from I can't remember. Yeah, from Cinder Pit on, I felt like that stuff was really runnable. So I one point put some road shoes on, and just kind of had a groove. And it seems like at about, when you start getting, and this sounds really bad, but it feels like around 200 miles or like maybe 60 hours is where you kind of feel like you're stuck in a groove. And I think if you can continue to feel the machine and keep it focused on the task, I think that's where these guys get this big long FKTs, and they can just go. You kind of get stuck in it. And it was that the whole rest of it. We were running stuff. My pacer's like, he goes, "You're insane." And I'm like, you just go. You feel like you can't break. You know that there's going to be damage, right? But just from experience. But your feet don't hurt anymore. Stuff that didn't hurt for days is gone. And I chalk it up to that. You the hay. You see the barn. You're done. And it's this. It may be 50 miles, but now it's tangible, right? You can wrap your mind around it, and that helps.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it was.
How sweet was that finish? And compare it to some of your other 200s. I mean, all the highs and the lows you've been through. What was your emotions like at that finish?
Oh, it was. Yeah. Well, I was super excited. My dad was still with me because I came in that last aid station. Not the last, second to last. It wasn't Eldon, but it was down in the flats. And I had seen Trevor there, he was right in front of me. And when I was getting ready to leave there, Drew Freeze, I think is the name, he rolled in. And I was like, okay, shit. We got like 20 miles left, and I'm racing. I mean, this is now my dad's going to jump in with the last 20 some miles. I'm thinking, I don't know that this is a good idea, right? Yeah. Because if I want to push or something happens, I don't want, I want to be in my own space, right? And that's, at least for me, when I get to that point, I just want to hunker down and just let's get this job done. And he was all excited. we took off out of there, and he was, he was pumped, and I was super excited too. And we settled into a groove pretty quick. I mean, within a couple miles, he realized how hot it was, and he knew what kind of pace I was going to go, which kind of fit his. And we grounded out. We did good. We pushed through there really well. And when we got to the bottom of Eldon, we had seen Kyle Curtin. He was coming down. And he's like, oh, it's a mile and a half or so to the top. And I'm like, told my dad, I said, this is a Pisgah Summit, which is a local hill that we run here that, does like 1,500 feet of climbing. And so I said, that's a piece of cake, 20, 30 minutes we're up. And it was pretty funny because it's one of those moments we felt like we were climbing like goats. I mean, and it took us probably like an hour. I mean, it was slow. Yeah. But in the moment, even shortly after, we were both like, man, we really were hammering up that thing. We were killing it, and we weren't. We weren't at all. But we got really lucky because when we hit the base of the mountain, literally the sun set behind it. So we had all shade the whole way up, and there was wind because the thermals had shifted on the backside, right? You're up high enough that you got this blast of wind up out of the valley. That was pretty cool. I mean, it felt good. So we had shade, we had cool air going up that. We got to the top of it. Dad was holding on. He never let me down. He was always right there. And we got to the top, and the wind was really blowing. It was ripping through this draw. And he and I had done some ashes there. That was another spot that I had done him and kind of let the wind take him. And that was literally about a few hundred feet below the aid station at Eldon. So we had done the ashes, and then we scurried up to the aid station, and I said, how far is Trevor? Where's Trevor? And they're like, he left like a minute ago. And I'm like, oh, I just want to see him. I don't want to pass him at this point. I just want to see the dude, right? I want him to know I'm right behind him. But we got to kind of watch Maggie finishing there, which was super cool because so here we were at the aid station, last aid station of the race. Yeah, it sucked to watch, somebody finishing, and I have 8 miles to go, but it was pretty neat to watch her start to come across the finish line. They had some drone footage and stuff. You could see her on the screens they had there. So that was pretty neat to be able to see, but then it was all downhill, right? It was, Dad hung on well, man. We came through town, and I told him we were running up this last section of, I'll tell you what, the whole way aid stations are hilarious, and I ran aid stations and I've been part of them. And then anytime you ask them, hey, how far is it? That's just like, they should just post that shit up, right? Put a sign up, right? Very clear for everybody because they don't know. He's like, oh, you just run down this, you hit the pavement, you're done. No, son, it's miles. And we were flying. We were running pretty fast, and we hit this grade, and I could see the top of the road to a street light, and we were running hard up. And I told my dad, I said, do not quit on me now. I said, keep pushing. He's back there just huffing and puffing, and he stayed hot on my tails the whole way down. And it was pretty cool. And that point to point stuff, I love that, it's just to go all the way from Black Canyon City to Flagstaff. Now you're like in the city, and you're like running right down into town, and people are hollering. There's like some moving trucks, and there's all kinds of stuff going on, but that was super neat. That was a nice touch. And it was a blast. It was to be able to do that with my dad and have friends there support me that I had, I never trusted anybody before to do that. When I did Tahoe those years, it was with my dad and a buddy, and they just kind of sat back. Okay. So that was a very different experience for me. They had lost a friend during that time. So there's definitely an emotional moment for all of us. So it was good, man. It was really, really well put together race. Everybody's got complaints about that type of stuff. Coulda, shoulda, woulda. They always want to compare it to someone else's, but in the end, that was exactly that's how I script trail running. That's, that type of journey. So, yeah. Wow, man.
And it had to have been really special just crossing the finish line with your dad there too. Him pacing you the last 20 miles. I mean, it sounds really special, man.
Oh yeah. Coming down the trail at the last part, I just kind of would laugh to myself. And, at that point, you're not broken. You're going to finish this thing. And it was getting darker. It's just, we had a couple good moments going up Eldon, talking about raising kids and what that looks like, and grandkids. And yeah, it's always good.
Wow.
It's always good.
Wow.
I'm super thankful to be able to do any miles with my dad, but to do something like that at the end of a journey that long, and to share that with him in those moments. Yeah. It doesn't get much better than that. Right.
That's huge. You're going to remember it forever,
Yep.
You mentioned scattering ashes at a couple different spots in the race. Have you done that in any other races before? I know you've been scattering ashes at different locations around the country.
Yeah, I mean, I carry them in all the, I always have them. I always carry them in it, but I don't always, it's there's a time and a place for it. I'm going to say a lot of races, I'm trying to think. Tahoe, I did once. Tahoe, I only did it once. I did it at 100 miles. Oh, I did an Armstrong Pass. I did it there, and then at the finish, I did it in the lake the next day. But yeah, it just kind of depends. There's a moment for it.
For sure.
And I share them. I shared some with the guys who helped me during the race. Adam and Jared, I sent them home with some ashes. I said, I wanted to do it with them. You don't want to, like I said, there has to be a moment. Ben Light saved my life, I felt like. So when we were coming down off of Crown King, I'd stop and gave him some. I said, man, I just want you to have these. And, and him stopping his race, early on to lend me his duct tape and super glue to fix my mess, when he could have just laughed and thought, oh, whatever, he'll figure it out. Right. And he waited with me. And then we got to Crown King, his wife had given me one of his bladders. He'd called ahead, said, hey, give Taylor a bladder. So he's got something. And guys don't have to do that stuff. And, Ben's been a good guy through COCODONA and doing stuff to help me that way. And it was a good moment. He was walking, he was coming downhill. And I think shortly after that, he dropped. He had some, an injury that had happened, and I didn't even realize it in the moment. I just saw him and thought, hey, I said, man, I really want to share this with you. I know it's kind of weird, but here's some ashes. So, it's just kind of depends.
Wow.
So I don't
just wait for the moment to kind of call your name.
Well, and I don't know that I don't think I've ever done it with my dad. Now that, that I think about it, I don't think that I know that we've never done it in that type of setting. So I knew it was super special in the moment. And I know he did too. And I like to say it means more now thinking back on it, but it was so awesome. Right. It was a good, yeah.
God, it just sounds like, just like 86 hours of special moments, I mean,
well, it is, man. It is. And I told myself I wasn't going to do another 200 till I was 45, because it's like, it's a lot to process, and it's a lot to ask of your family and your friends and your work. And all these people are supporting you. I mean, I had thousands of people even through my work setting that were following us. Some health and wellness stuff that we're doing. We did a life tracker, and we were doing a step challenge. If people could beat me in the step challenge a day, there was a reward.
Wow.
People are watching, and you start to realize the amount of people that, want to support you, or who are looking to be, motivated by what you're doing. And yeah, I mean, we're awfully lucky to be able to do that stuff. And I'm super grateful and super thankful that I'm able to finish those things,
No kidding. Yeah.
So.
Explain to me what it's like to work a full-time job. I mean, I work full-time job as well, and I'm taking vacation time to go do these races. And if I want to go do a big weekend out in the mountains somewhere,
man,
get off work on Friday, pack up the van, drive there. You're just exhausted the whole time.
Yeah.
Is that what it's like for you?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Just like that. Yeah. It never changes. It's like, my wife and I, it was funny, the weekend after COCODONA, she was like, oh, we're going to the mountains. I'm like, say what? She goes, we're going to hike into Fawn Lake. I said, it's like 4 miles and it's like uphill and there might be snow. She's like, yeah, we're going to go up there and just relax. And I'm like, okay. And until, a lot of people that is hard. And it was hard because it was shortly after something, but man, you get up there and that night's sleep and waking up that cold air. I don't know what's better than that.
Yeah.
So that's where we try to get it from. We're the same way. The van, I mean, the last year I've worked from home, literally.
Okay.
I mean, our van is 2018. We've had it 2.5 years, and it's got 63,000 miles on it.
Nice.
And I mean, I work from home, so I mean, we drive a lot,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, it's the same. We're wide open. If we get a chance, we're out the door. Get home Sunday night, shower, house is clean, leave the van, bring in a bag with the clothes, shower, get ready, go to work the next day, do it again. So
Same here, man. I mean, I can't tell you how many Mondays I've strolled into work just like exhausted, and people are looking at me like rough weekend, and I'm like, dude, you have no idea. Like,
no, yeah, it's the same. And I've done the whole, I used to wake up super early and put miles in, at lunch, put them in after work, late at night. It's bounced all around. And my biggest thing is I've always wanted to be able to do it so my family didn't think that's what I was always doing. Right. So they'd be gone. If they're at school, work, that's when or asleep. I've always tried to put miles in. And it used to be that way on the weekends. I'd get up at 1 o'clock in the morning to drive up to the mountain, to be there at 3 to, so I could be home at 10 o'clock to go to a soccer game because I was the coach.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, now I feel lazy because we only have the one little one. There's really no sports. So it's like, you got a lot more time, and,
Sure.
but still you just load it up with more stuff to do.
Yeah.
So
it's another level, man. Like some of these professional athletes, that's their job. And I sort of envy that from time to time, but
no way. No,
no.
I told my wife, I said, yeah, even running, I know there's guys that have some help doing that, but I like a full-time job.
Really?
I kind of want to work for the guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I couldn't imagine trying to balance, being a professional athlete, or hustling, a lot of guys are good at that. They can make ends meet. They make a good living doing it. I just, I'm not motivated that way, I guess. Or
yeah. So you like the security of a job, or is it having something to do and having structure all the time?
I think it's the structure piece. I mean, I'd love to say, yeah, I mean, in the big scheme of things, just being a human and knowing myself as an adult, and my own flaws, what I need is that structure. I need to know that I'm accountable. Somebody needs me there. They need me at work. They need me to do this, need me to do that. Yeah, I'm your guy. That I need that.
Okay.
I mean, not that I'd sit around and eat McDonald's and get fat if I didn't, but I need that structure. Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Tell me your history with, I know that you quit drinking a while back, and I did as well. So I think that's something we have in common. So I'm interested in that version or that part of your story. And like, were you drinking and running at the same time? Because you've been running ultras for quite a while.
Yeah, I actually, I was drinking and running. I literally would go for a 13-15 mile run, and I'd swing by Surview Market, and I would pound wine in the parking lot, and I'd run home. Yeah, I had a serious drinking problem. Wine. Yeah, it didn't matter what it was, but yeah. And that's a funny one too, because I think I justified a lot of the drinking because if you go to a race, you get some beers, there's beer there, fire, big pizza, beer. It's like, it's a scene. And that's cool. And but I just everything I do, I overdo. I wish I could say that I don't, but I absolutely do. I will. I mean, yeah, it doesn't matter what it is. I could grow a beard, I'll grow it long, right? It's like, you want to go for a run, I'll run longer.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to do some drinking? I'm good at that too. Well, I think I am, but you know what I mean? And I was doing it. It was a 50-miler, Siskiyou out and back. I'd finished the race. My family was actually not even at the finish line because I finished an hour sooner than they thought I would. And we were sitting up at the camper, and I was drinking some beers, and our oldest son just kind of, he looked at me, and I knew, I'm drunk and he knows it. I'm an idiot, and it was one of those moments that I just had to really reel back and figure out, what I'm doing and who I'm doing it for. Right.
Really?
So
Yep.
here's your family there to support you. And here I am doing what I want to do, being selfish. And
Mhm.
now I'm sitting here drinking in front of my kids
Yeah.
and like celebrating my own. It didn't fit the moment. Right. It's not, there's a time and place for that stuff. And I wasn't good at that. So
Mm.
that was kind of the beginning of that. But my problem was beyond that was I'd had a back surgery already, and I had been eating pills, not 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 recklessly, but I was taking what I was prescribed, and I which was more than it should have been anyways. But
Right.
and I was drinking. So when I had initially kind of first quit drinking, I kind of rolled to the pills.
Yeah.
It was easy.
Yeah.
Just cut way back on the drinking. I ended up quit drinking, but I was eating the pills, and then that's when the second back surgery. I mean, there was a time there that I had completely broke. I mean, I'd posted something today, and I had, you kind of put that stuff far back in your memory. I've said it on podcasts before. I've mentioned it in posts, but I'm sitting at the doctor's office trying to get my Dilaudid pills filled,
Mm.
and I'm sitting there, and I don't even know how long I'd had them. Probably not long, and blew through them. I'd called, they weren't going to fill them, and I was like, well, I'll come see the doctor. So
Mm.
I get down there, and I'm sitting in the doctor's office, and I see what I think is the doctor's pickup, and the dude's leaving, and they left me there. Um, and I was like, what? I called. He was on call, and he says, "Oh, you're just going to get sick. You're just going to get sick." But you're going to be okay. And that was a couple days. It took me a couple days to tell my wife, because nobody really knew. We ended up going to a treatment center. I sat at the treatment center. They said it was going to be $12,000, and I about lost my shit. My dad had gone through a treatment center for drinking, and now here I am with this. They want this money, and I don't have it. I mean, I don't have that. And we just decided that we would just give me some space and see what happened. So it was 6 days or so. I mean, a couple of days were really bad. A few days were gross. And then it started to turn. And I just, you realize that, without your family, without your circle, that you're nobody. So you're just another body on the street. Right. So that was when the pill part had stopped, and I was done with it. And I was burned out on it. I mean, I never went looking for hard drugs, but I wasn't doing anything weird with the pills. I was just taking a lot of them. And I was convincing the doctor to give them to me. And and it's just, and the thing I remember is nobody ever said you're going to take these and have a problem. And that was the thing I really banked on, for a long time. It really pissed me off because I didn't realize how addicted I would get when I started to kind of self-medicate with them. I mean, when I was taking them before my first back surgery, it didn't seem like, it never felt like it was a vice until I had given up something else, and me being me overdid it. And then I realized, holy shit, I'm just out of control.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was tough. That was tough. And then after that, it was, had another back surgery. So I'd sobered up, nothing, have another back surgery. I was terrified.
Yeah.
I did not want to take anything. I took Tylenol. The doctor said I was crazy. You got to take this stuff. I think at one point I took like a half a Vicodin. I think it was something like that, but I didn't want anything to do with that shit. I said, I'll just deal with it.
Yeah.
And at that point, honestly, I'd been running enough that I had worked through some other glitches. I had an Achilles that ruptured. I'd had other stuff, that had worked up that, there's kind of a, I don't want to say a comfort that comes with the pain, but you get a gauge, right? You realize what's actually broken or what really hurts or what you think might heal. And then I looked for that discomfort a little bit in my back because that was my gauge, because I was going to run again. I mean, I was going to go do all the same shit. And if I knew I did a little tweak and it hurt, I didn't want that to be masked. I wanted to know right away that is not good. And it was hard at night doing that stuff. But once I got active and started moving again, I was good, and I was back running about 2.5 weeks after my second back surgery.
Wow.
So, and I didn't take anything for that one, and just kind of went about my business. And I just, physical therapy, all the normal stuff. We had that, life part happen, and then we lost my job after 20 years, and and we lost our son, and it was then we had to move. It was like all these pieces. It's just crazy how perspective can change things, right? And I had sobered up, right, and that was my only thing that I knew what it felt like and how shitty I could feel, and I had to take something to do that. Everything else was just going to pass. And I could tell my kids all the time, even when you don't think it's going to work out, a lot of the times it does. So sometimes when you don't even want it to work out, it does. So yeah, it's just, but yeah, stayed sober through all that. And I feel like I've just grown up a lot in that direction. And I know guys go about that stuff differently. And but my big thing was just eat pills. That was an easy one.
Well, your story's similar to mine, like I gave up drinking on my own, no program or anything like that. And then I just relied on other stuff. Like all of a sudden I started smoking weed more than ever. And I had this prescription of pills from the doctor, and same thing. I started over medicating, and it's like the addiction was just a transfer of addiction. And I just started using this other stuff until that got out of control. How long have you been sober now?
Oh gosh. So I haven't drank, I think it's 7 or 8 years.
Nice.
Cause Paxton is 12. Yeah, I'm horrible at this part. I know Buddy's boy, they know the day that they quit. And I never saw it that way. My dad's recovered too, right? We're in recovery, and he's the same way. He knows how long it's been just because he knows the date, but he and I have talked a lot about how, that's something you want to forget. I don't want to ever remember what day it was that I quit something, right? Or what that was. So, Oh, you're still there. My phone blinked.
Yep, I'm good.
Paxton's 12. I remember the first year was my first back surgery with him. I remember first year I couldn't pick him up. So it must be about 7 or 8 years.
Okay. Wow.
I'm going to say 7 years that I've been, I haven't drank. And then, the pills have been shortly after that. Good. I can probably go look, but
good for you, man.
Yeah. I still envy those guys and sit down and have a beer with dinner or, I wish I could, but I know I can't. So, and that's okay. I'm good with that.
Totally.
So,
yeah.
Root beer. I drink a lot of root beer. I'd go to the boys. We do fast food Fridays. Me and the boys would get cheeseburgers. Me and my sons would get cheeseburgers, and then get different root beers at different places through town. And then I realized a lot of pubs and whatnot have good root beers.
Yep.
So that was the thing for a while. And then I was just like, it's not my scene anymore. It didn't fit, and I don't have time for it.
No program or anything like that. Were you ever thinking about going to AA or anything like that, or just wasn't even a thought for you?
No, I'd went to a meeting with a friend, and it just felt weird. And then I remembered not a meeting I went to with my dad, but I remember when my dad was in the treatment center. We had all sat in there and had said something special about him or whatnot, and it felt like that, and I didn't want to be that, right? It was just weird. It didn't fit. Spiritually, it was different for me, the one that I had gone to, and it just wasn't a good fit for me at the time of my life. Right now, honestly, that's probably where I'd lean to. Where I just experience now, something had happened, I'd probably go with the group. I'd lean on a group of dudes and a group of people that had more experience than me with it.
For sure.
But,
and your son passed away while you were sober.
Yeah, that was just 3 years ago.
Dude, that's rough. I mean,
yeah.
I don't have kids. I had a good buddy of mine that passed away like right after I had quit drinking. So, and I'm sorry for your loss. It's completely tragic and horrible, but on the flip side, like sort of living through that and staying sober gives you a new confidence about your sobriety.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That's like, I mean, I tell people this this is probably the biggest thing. When you're out on the trail and you're hurting, there's an I have felt emotional loss and that gut ache that worry in your soul, that is way way worse than
Totally.
feeling sorry for yourself on the side of a freaking trail, right? And I can, or having your heart broken, right? Some dudes, that is loss, and that is something that in the moment, that stuff, and it just sits with you for your whole life. And honestly, yeah, during those big events, I got a tattoo on my back, on my shoulder, and it's Donovan's hand pushing me, and it's don't be a pussy, just keep moving, and it's his actual handprints tattooed. My wife has one on her other shoulder, like he's hugging her, but it's him pushing me from behind because, who else is going to do it, right? So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible, man. Well, congrats on the sobriety. And it's incredible how many people in the ultra running world come from, backgrounds of addiction or backgrounds of trauma, heartbreak, loss, grief. And you're right. Once you go through that stuff and you've been through that darkness, like the dark night of the soul or the dark year of the soul, then you jump into an ultra marathon. It's like, I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's certainly not as hard.
Yeah. For me, it doesn't mentally or emotionally take me to that place where I feel broken. Yeah. I feel like I'm just alive, right? Physically, you feel so strong, and mentally you're focused. It's just weird. It's super weird. And it's probably to a point, probably not even that healthy. Honestly, it's probably partially that we're testing ourselves. I feel like part of that is how focused can I stay and how messed up am I? Right. And I'm sure there's some truth to that, but it's socially acceptable and I'm not hurting anybody.
Right. Yeah. That's the thing. Like torturing yourself on the trail for 250 miles is more socially acceptable than, going on a bender for 86 hours,
Right. Your family finds you in the ditch somewhere all drunk and passed out. Here they actually help you up and tell you to keep going.
Totally. Isn't it crazy?
Oh, my dad and I, we have had some pretty dark conversations about how messed up we think it is. It's pretty funny because there's reality to it. I mean, I know we all want to say, for whatever reason, you know the drill. It's a test, and we're just testing ourselves in whatever way we can find, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, in a way, it's probably a transfer of addictions, but it's like this is so much healthier for me, and like you said, more socially acceptable, and yeah, it's if it's a transfer of addictions, then I'll take this addiction any day. It's like.
No, I was a couple 100 pounds drinking 18-pack of Keystone a night. I mean, we were ordering Domino's every night. I mean, that was a normal thing, watching football on the big screen. I mean, I had the 4-wheel drive. We're trailing our shit to Tahoe every year to run the Rubicon Trail. We were, that we lived that, had the boat, got the camper, that was fun. And we had a lot of fun growing up. But man, I can't, my life is just in a different place now. And just, it's a lot easier and it's a lot less expensive where I'm at now.
Totally.
But yeah, less stuff, but
good on you, man. Good on you. Stay on the path. I mean, it's a tough path sometimes, but it's so worth it, I think back to where I was a few years ago, and I just think, God, I'm just in such a better head place than I was when I was hiding in my room, hiding my drinking problem from my roommates at the time. And I don't miss those days.
I remember my wife going, "Are you okay?" "Oh, I'm just really tired."
Yeah.
I was wasted.
Right.
I'd drink Rock Stars or Red Bulls because I knew they smelled so smell was so strong off him, she probably wouldn't be able to really tell if I had been drinking. That was my theory, at least. She never said anything, right? So it was like I thought I was doing pretty good, but I was a joke, man. I thought I was hiding it from everybody, and I was drinking in my vehicle like it was my living room. I was doing it everywhere. Yeah, totally reckless.
Yep, same here, dude. I can relate.
Yeah.
What's next for you, man? You got any more races on the calendar?
Sure thing. Yeah. I got Squaw Peak 50 in a couple weeks. That's Provo, Utah. That's it. I went through and I pick every year. I try to do kind of older races. I always want to do some classic.
Okay.
So there's some here locally. Like McDonald Forest is an old one. that I always try to do. But so Squaw Peak is in Provo, 50 miler. I ran that one last year. So I hope I can get I want to do under 9 hours. I think I can. That's a good one. There's like 350 runners. It's pretty busy, and not a lot of guys from Oregon show up to that one. It's just a lot of Utah people, and it's fun. It's like my other family, it seems like.
Cool.
That, and then Siskiyou Outback in July, 100K, and then Cascade Crest 100 in Easton, Washington. That's my big one for the year. I think I really want to do well in a mountain 100. I haven't really done many mountain hundreds. Okay. I've done one. I've done the Bear. That was my first 100. And I've done some hundreds, but not in the mountains. And I really want to do one quick. Okay. So that's what I'm gunning for.
So the 250-mile race is like a practice race for the A race, which is a 100-mile race.
Well, either I'm going to be really fit or hurt. But yeah, well, COCODONA was never planned. That was never the plan. The rest of my schedule was pretty laid up because from COVID, everything kind of got rolled over. So I was like, well, this works perfect. Last year was awesome. I mean, we were doing big runs all over. There was really no pressure. Nobody and it was really good for me to get that break because we schedule a lot of our vacations and stuff around races. Yep. I mean, we'll go to Utah for a week and do a race, and the family support do that whole thing. So without that, it's just a different feel. So then this year they rolled everything over, and I'm like, well, I guess this is the time. And then COCODONA, I couldn't pass up. The more I kept reading about it, I talked to the race directors and Jamil and those guys. I'm like, I got to get in on this thing. I don't want to not have done it. So
yeah. Well, killer, man.
Yeah.
So I've done a bunch of hundreds in the past. I'm doing my first 200 this year. Do you have any advice for me? Do you have any tips, tricks, anything you got for me? I'll take anything.
So there's a sleep strategy, and I think so what I've done, I did it at Tahoe 2 years, and then I did the same thing here. 100K at a time. So find your 100K goal, right? Whatever your whatever you think your finish time is going to be, take your 100K reasonable goal. And what I did is for every hour I came in under my 100K goal, I slept.
Okay.
So inevitably what everybody does in the first 100K, you're going to be hauling ass. Everybody goes out too fast.
Right.
So I just started self-checking myself at 50K, at 50 miles. And if I was 15, 20 minutes ahead of time, you know what? Sitting down for a minute in the shade rather than pushing it in the sun, that's going to pay off way more than trying to get there when you think you need to get there. And the other thing for me is I'm not very successful at sleeping in aid stations. There's too much hustle and bustle. It's too loud. I'd rather push myself onto the trail. You get to the point that you got to do something. Just have a puffy or something, get comfortable and lay down for 5 minutes. Not longer. I don't think you really need to do longer, because then Cam and my brother and I realized at Bigfoot that if you lay down, it is 40 degrees and you lay down for like a half an hour, you'll wake up frozen. And we were like helping each other zip our coats, shaking, it's like you'll wake up and you get so tired that your sugar levels drop so far. You're just physically, you're cold because of temp that you can't get warm. That was terrifying. Yeah. But yeah, I think sleep strategy is a big one, and finding a way you can sleep. And going in super, super rested if you can. So we talked about being busy. Honestly, the week of COCODONA, I was getting anywhere from 12 to maybe 14, 15 hours of sleep a night.
Nice.
So I wanted to go into COCODONA literally I don't think I can sleep. I mean, I could stay up for days. I did that at Tahoe and there, and I think that was feeling just super, super rested.
Okay.
Yeah. And realizing you're not going to realistically, looking at even the guys that came out in front of me, I was probably doing more miles a week consistently than they were.
Really?
Some of those guys are doing 40 miles a week. I think that's the other piece, is to feel, to maintain that energy and not be tired going into it, not being worn down.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a sucker. I'll do long runs right before that stuff. And I did pretty good on this one. And I still felt like I could have been even more rested. And I had a pretty light couple of weeks going into it.
Okay.
But
So
yeah,
your taper wasn't super extreme. You said you were running long runs right into it.
yeah. A few weeks out, we were in Arizona, and had like 120-mile week. I think that
Dang.
was, yeah. Then I think I did I think I did 120, 70, 50, and then the race.
Okay. Okay. Wow.
Yeah. And then I went like a 50-mile week. And then last week was like a 70-mile week.
Okay.
So
Wow.
trying to get back. I want to get back to my 70, 80. If I can get back there consistently and it fits my life balance, I can fill out see where I feel physically. Right.
Yeah.
I'm not keeping track of time or any of my stuff right now. I'm just getting out and trying to put the miles and feeling it and making sure I feel good and just getting the time balance back. Cause that's a big thing for me.
Yeah. So you're typically a high mileage guy?
It's taken me 10 years of doing ultras to get to 70 or 80 miles a week and not be hurt.
Okay.
I'd say about 10 miles a year it's taken me to gain that. I mean, in the past, there was times I'd done 90 miles a couple weeks, I'd get hurt. I mean, you can look at my Strava and I can tell you exactly. You can look at it plain as day. Oh, he's doing good. Boom. And then there'd be like, oh, you tried to come back. Same thing with overtraining syndrome, whatever, same deal. I mean, I've had my blood checked. I've been through all these tests. I've had my theories. You just no energy. I can't get going. Everything hurts. After an hour, I'm toast. I can't run anymore. Yeah, I've seen that. That shit's real. It sucks.
Yeah.
But learning to say, I'm gonna go ahead and put all my running shit away. I'll put all my pictures away. I put my running shoes in the closet. I keep all my running stuff out of sight. Usually only takes a couple days. Things feel better. And also you get that urge back. I kind of want to go for a run, and there's been huge struggles on that stuff, but I think we all kind of go up and down through that, right?
Yeah, for sure. That's that addictive personality right there.
Absolutely. I can still do this.
Totally. I know.
Yeah. Everybody's telling you shouldn't. Yeah, you're right. But
you're probably right. But yeah. No, I've been there, man. Dude.
What 200 are you doing? What do you got? What is it?
The Sangre de Cristo 200 here in Colorado.
Okay.
So it's one of the smaller, it's not one of the big 200s, but it's legit. A lot of climbing, 40 some thousand feet. It's going to be a good one. And like I said, I've done a bunch of hundreds before, so I pretty much know the drill, but 200s just slower, like you said, sleep strategy, and I'll have good crew out there and should be good.
Yeah. Sleep. I think the sleep deprivation is the piece that gets people. And I think people go too long and then you can't recover. I did Moab. We got to like 60 some hours and I was lost. I was completely shot. I couldn't read Nathan on my brother's pack. And afterward, it took me a month to be normal. I mean, mentally, physically, I was sweating at night. I was a wreck.
Oh, no,
but
thanks.
Then Tahoe, the second one, I had the sleep strategy. I did the 15 hours. And then the next year I did the same thing, but I did on 12 hours for 50 milers. And then I was going to sleep everything under that, which I was close to. And I had about 5 or 6 hours of sleep. And then I had about 5 or 6 hours at COCODONA and felt pretty good. But Moab, that was like an hour and a half over almost 80 hours. And I was wrecked. And I reading guys' reports and kind of knowing who they are and I've been around a lot of these guys now quite a few times and knowing their patterns, you see that a lot. Yeah. So, I mean, if you can figure out a sleep strategy, some people can't do it. I can drink coffee all day long and lay down and take a nap.
Same here.
So, well, yeah, dude, then you got an upper hand there. That's because I'm the same. I was drinking Mountain Dew and Tailwind in both my front bottles and I could still just lay down and I was out. Especially when you're that tired. Have you
So
slept in 100? Have you ever tried to, or have you before?
I did once. I laid down and took a trail nap just because I was feeling wonky for some reason, but I only did
Yeah.
it once, just one time. So, but I
Yeah.
don't think falling asleep is going to be a big problem. Are you
Good.
mostly taking trail naps, or are you jumping in
Yeah.
the van and taking an hour or two here and
This
there?
this was the first time I've ever been in the van. I've
Okay.
never done that before.
Wow.
Otherwise, even in 100 milers, I mean, I've done, yeah, I even slept at Elkhorn Crest 50 miler. I was like second place there. I slept probably 20 minutes.
Oh,
It got at altitude, and heat. I do not do good.
yeah.
And I slow down quick and things go south. And I've learned that I gotta reset, but it only takes a couple of minutes,
Okay.
2-3 minutes. Sometimes it's just sitting down enough to kind of catch my breath and cool down and go again. And maybe it isn't sleeping, but setting a timer. I'd always roll up to the next 5 minutes.
Okay.
So yeah, that's good. You can do that because some people, there was guys in the race. They were on their second day, staggering down the trail. I said, "How you doing, man?" "Oh man," I said, "Have you slept?" "No, no." I'm like, "Yeah, there's no way. I don't know that a human can really stay awake for 60 plus hours straight." I mean, I think we have all said we thought we've done it, but I don't think we really have. I think there's some real human boundaries.
For sure.
Yeah, because micro naps and that stuff is all real too, right? I think that, but yeah,
Awesome.
that's exciting.
Well, cool.
When is that one?
September.
Okay,
so
cool.
I still have a couple months, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man. It's gonna be awesome. So, and I'm sure it'll just be the first of many. You know how it goes. You just like, oh, what's the next one?
I said I would never ever do Moab again, and within days of doing COCODONA, I'm like, I think I got some redemption. I might need to go back to Moab and see if I can't knock some time off that time I did there, because it doesn't seem that far anymore.
Yeah. Isn't it crazy?
Short-term memory loss, man. That's what it is. Too much running.
Right.
Yeah.
Taylor, this has been awesome, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. This has been fantastic. And thanks for the tips. They're clutch.
Yeah.
Man. I hope they help.
Yeah.
I'll have to report back to you and let you know how it went.
Yeah, I do. No, that's exciting. So that's in September. That's up high then too, right? That race must be.
For sure. I think it averages like 10 or maybe 9, but yeah.
Is it late September?
Middle of September, I believe.
Ooh, so the leaves are probably just money. Probably
leaves are going to be changing.
Yep. Yeah, cool.
It's going to be beautiful. But the flip side of that is a lot of the leaves are falling, and so some of the trails covered. So there's a possibility of losing the trail from time to time. But yeah,
it's all part of it, man. That's the journey.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no good map in life, son. You just got to keep your head up, keep it on a swivel, and keep moving.
I love it, dude. I don't think we could close this podcast with anything better than that. That's it right there.
Fair.
Taylor Spike, you're a savage, dude. Keep doing what you're doing, man. I'm going to keep an eye on you, and I can't wait to see what's in your future, man. I love it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the conversation, man. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Stay in touch, man. We'll have to do this again sometime, but keep it up, man. You're awesome.
Thanks, man. You too. Appreciate you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.